Hey guys, welcome you all in T3P Technology to the Point. In this video, we will go through Azure Fundamentals. That means that we are going from the very beginning, like cloud concept. If you are new to the cloud or the Azure, or you want to start your journey with the cloud, then this is the first step where you should start with the region. From the very beginning to the expert level, we are going through each and every services which is part of Azure. That means if you have gone through this particular series, then you will not able to get into a situation where you will get stuck with any kind of question. The reason is this certification, that AZ-900, which is mainly for Azure Fundamentals, is based on the foundation level knowledge. That means that you should able to explain that what are the service doing, what exactly this service is. And in this video, I'll share my experience, what I learned it. So now you got the idea what we are going through it. Let's see what we have.
If we will talk about the exam domains, as you know, there are six domains in for this exam, which is having like cloud concept, core services, general security and network security features, identity, governance, privacy and compliance features, core solutions and management tools for Azure, and then in the last we have Azure cost management and SLA. If we will talk about the all domains, then we have around 103 services, or we can say the topics or the terms. So in this video, I'm going to explain each and every topic, not in too much detail, but I'll go through to the point, so in a very less time we can prepare ourselves for this exam. As I already mentioned in my earlier videos for Azure Fundamentals, this is the first level of certification where they are looking only for foundational information, not they are looking for deep dive or scenario based question. Mostly you should be aware what the services do and what exactly that services is and where we can use it. How it works and all you don't require, so we will go through to the point. So here we have the first topic, which is divided into three sections, and these three sections having 16 terms or the services, we can say. What I mean these 16 is, like, if you know, if we will go one by one, we will cover high availability, scalability, elasticity, agility, fault tolerance, disaster recovery. If I'll go one by one, then it means it is having total 16. So we will go each and every services, so we will not skip anything. Similarly, in the second section, that is related to core Azure services, where we have 26 services or the terms, whatever we can call them, but here I will refer as a service. Next section we have for core solutions and management tools, which is having 23 services. These all I'll go each and every one, so we will not miss anything. If I'll go with the fourth section, which is general security and network security features, in this one, if I'll talk, there are 12 terms or the services we will go through. Next we have identity, governance, privacy and compliance feature, which is divided into three sections, and it is having 18 services. Then in the last we have Azure cost management and service as level agreement, that is known as SLA as well. So it is divided into two, where we will talk about methods of planning and managing cost, and we will talk about the SLA and the service life cycle. And overall it is having 8 terms and services. So this is what we are going through. My plan is to go through each and every services. If we will go through this particular video, so I am 100% sure, even if you will not get the questions what you prepared for, you will be able to handle that question. So you will not be blank in the exam if you don't get that particular question. So let's start. So let's talk about first section, that is the first domain, describe cloud concept. In this one we will talk about the benefit and the consideration of using cloud services, where we will talk about high availability, scalability, elasticity, agility, fault tolerance, and disaster recovery. Then we will go with capex and opex. Then we will go with the consumption based model, or we can say the economics benefits of the cloud. Next section we have, where we will go through shared responsibility model, and here we need to talk mainly about the cloud services based on the service model, so that IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service come into picture. Then we will compare these services as well, how it varied in terms of ownership, in terms of cost, because we will get the question for sure from this particular section. Then we will talk about the serverless computing, what exactly mean in terms of Azure serverless computing. Then we will go through the differences between the types of computer cloud computing deployment models. What are these deployment models? Are private cloud, public cloud, and the hybrid cloud we have. Then we will compare these computing model. So this is the first section, as I already mentioned with you, and here we will go through 16 terms and services. Okay, so let's go with the first one. This is high availability. If I define high availability in a single line, that means that high availability is the ability to keep your service up and running for longer period of time, means with very little downtime. As when we run our application, we always want that our application should run 100%. That means we always want our application or services should be up and running all the time. But in the ideal scenario we want it, but it's not at all possible for any of the service provider, or not for us as well. So we expect there is a time when we will get some disruption. So because of that our services can go down. Even if you heard about recently about the Google services, their services were down for 30 minutes or so, and they had a huge loss of in billions. So that's what I'm trying to say. So in how Azure help us in terms of high availability. So Azure help us to make our application or the service available, highly available, through the availability zones. So availability zones come into picture, and it will have the, as per SLA, 99.99%. So you can expect there it is close to 100%. No cloud provider give SLA 100%, but the thing is they have some varies from 99 to 99.99%. In some cases less also, but not more than that. So they provide in the SLA that they will keep your application and services up and running. That means they will provide high availability through the availability zone, which is having around 99.99% of uptime. Okay, so what are the factors which reduce the chances of the availability? So normally it can be your network outage, it can be your application as well, failure of the application. It can be from the system side. Your system can be down where our application is hosted. There might be some power outage, and there might be some problem with the nature disaster, we can say. So there are many factors, other factor also, hardware issue or the software issue or licensing issue. There is see, so there are many factors. Because of that this our services can go down, but still because we have many factors, still they are giving uptime of 99.99% as per SLA. So this is what we have in the high availability. Let's talk about the scalability, elasticity, and agility in all together. If I'll talk about the scalability, that is the ability to increase or decrease resources for any given workload. Means it can be like we have scaling in two ways, like scaling up and down and scaling out or scaling in. What that does that mean, I'll explain you later. So scaling means to add or remove the resources, okay, on the system itself. Either you are increasing the number of the servers or you are increasing the configuration of this server, that comes under scaling. Then what exactly the elasticity is? Elasticity is the ability to automatically or dynamically increase or decrease resources as needed. That means it can stretch and it can shrink as well, so we can add it or remove it. That is the feature comes under elasticity. So cloud provides this feature as well. When we are talking about the agility, that is the ability to respond to change rapidly. That means whenever we need to make such changes like scaling up or down or scaling out in, that response is very quick in that is provided by the cloud provider. In auto scaling, it's you will not realize at all also sometimes. So so that is the just the ability to respond to the changes rapidly, that is the agility. Now we will talk about the scalability. There are two way: horizontal, and then another we have vertical. If we will talk about the horizontal, there are two way: scale in, scale out. If we will talk about the vertical one, scale up, scale down. Scale in is we are increasing the adding the servers in a same system if needed as per the load, if the load is increased. Scale out, that means we are removing the resources from the existing system. Like if we have the load balancer, they are running on 4 node. If the load is increased for the application and the services, we will add those, add one more server in that one. If we don't require that one, we can remove that as well. So it is scale in or scale out. What exactly the scale up or down means, that on the single resource, if it is having like 2 CPU, 4 GB of RAM, okay, uh, if our system is slow, if we want to increase the resources, okay, we want to make it 2 to 4 CPU, okay, that is known as a scale up. Similarly, if we will increase the RAM, that will also come under scale up. When we will reduce these configuration like from 4 CPU to 2 CPU, then it is scale down. Similarly, 4 GB to 2 GB, it is scale down. So this is what, when we will talk about the vertical, that means that we are working on a same system. Either we are increasing or we are reducing. If we will go with scale in or scale out, that means we are adding or we are removing the resources. So this is what we have in scaling, elasticity, and agility. Let's talk about next topic, that is fault tolerance or the disaster recovery. Let's talk in a single line, then we will explain. Fault tolerance is the ability to remain up and running even in the event of a component no longer functioning. Suppose if you are running uh, a load balancer, okay, that is your LV, and it is having two vacant server, okay. So what happens sometimes, your service is running on this particular node and something happened with this one and it got down. So what it will do, it will add one more resources or it will move the services which is running on this particular node to this one. So you will have the, we can say, the small uh, failure or small scale level failure, means it is not fully down, your system is not fully down, just some component of your system got down. Because of that, your load balancer move the services from one unhealthy resource to the healthy resource. So this is known as a fault tolerance. Okay, in this way we can say our system is fault tolerant. What is disaster recovery? See, disaster recovery is the ability to deal with the failure at a larger scale. That means, if you, in case, for an example, there is natural disaster come to any region, any location it comes. So what will happen? It can impact your whole data center. That means whole availability zone as well as whole region also can be impacted. What are those natural disaster like floods or earthquake? We can have the example of that one. In that case, what happened? So, disaster recovery plan, which is also known as business continuity and disaster recovery. See, if we have the organization that is big and we are providing services to many clients, we can't afford that our server, our application or the services go down. In that case, there might be a disruption. In this case, what we will have the backup site ready with that one. If some, suppose we have region 1 and region 2, if something happened with this one, natural disaster came on this particular region and all the services go down, so it is having the backup site ready, just it will replicate or transfer the role to the another region. This is what we do in disaster recovery. So I hope it is fine with you. So next topic we have CapEx and OpEx. So if we will talk about the CapEx is the upfront spending of money on the physical infrastructure, or we can say if we are building your own organization, you need to spend amount to purchase the hardware, to get the components ready, then you will hire the team and all. So for that one you need a capital expenditure, right? Once you have everything ready, then you will move to the operational model. Like you need power to run your business every day, you need the human resources to work for you. So when you work for your own organization, you the capex and opex both come into picture. So capital expenditure is the upfront spending to build our organization, or we can say build our infrastructure. What is the operational expenditure? It is the spending money on the services or product now, means there is no upfront cost to be spent. That means that when you need to run any service, you just pay and use that particular service. So the thing is here, if you have a car, if you purchase the car, that is the capex, and if you are renting the car, that comes under opex. Okay, so that is the difference. If we will talk about the capex, what comes into that, like server cost, storage cost, network cost, and the to for organization continuity and disaster recovery cost, means if we will prepare another site for our backup. Next, if we will talk about the operational cost, that's like software licensing that we need to renew, hosting expenses, electricity bill, real estate rentals, and all comes into OPEX. So this is the difference. Here we will spend upfront. Here we no need to spend upfront, but we need to spend regularly or as per the services we use it. So the next topic we have economics benefit of the cloud. So I defined it in two way, like economic of scale. Economies of scale is the ability to reduce cost and gain efficiency when operating at a larger scale. in comparison to operating at a small scale. The example of this one, if you know, like the cloud provider, how they can give these resources what we are getting as a service at the cheaper cost. When we will go alone, like for our on-prem infrastructure, we get the same service at a higher cost. The reason is they go with a larger scale. They purchase the hardware, they build the big data centers. So what they can do, they make their own infrastructure big, and then they share their infrastructure with us. So that's why they are just sharing. When they will go with a larger scale, they will get big discount on that one. So they will get at the cheaper price. If we will go for us individually, then we will get the same hardware at the higher cost, because we will purchase the limited amount, right? So that is the economies of scale. So whenever they will ask, they can ask in the question what are the benefits of the cloud. In that one I found this option, that's why I explain it here. Next is consumption based model. What exactly it is? It's allow end users only to pay for the resources that they use it. So here, that's why we move to the cloud there here, because here we just need to pay for what we are using. We no need to spend extra on that one, right? So that's why it's a consumption based model. Cloud is also known as consumption based model. So, what is the benefit with doing this consumption based model? That we no need to spend anything upfront, we no need to purchase or manage the costly infrastructure. We just need to pay for the additional resource whenever we need to do add it, right? Whenever we need it, or we can stop paying the for the resources which is no longer required. But in our on-prem infrastructure, we need to follow all the decommission process and all. But here we no need to think about that one, that what we will do after the decommissioning of that hardware server and all. Here we don't no need it, we just remove it. So this is the this was the first section of the domain one. Next we will talk about the differences between categories of cloud services. Let's talk about quickly. So first we have the shared responsibility model. As cloud works on shared responsibility model. That means that if we will go with our own infrastructure, okay, that on-prem environment, what we do, we require to build an infrastructure like storage, network, compute, virtual machine, operating system, runtime, application, data, and access. So in this case, we need to manage everything. We need the resources who will manage these all things. But when we move to the cloud, we are offered infrastructure in three ways. First is known as infrastructure as a service. Second is platform as a service. Third is software as a service. If we will talk about infrastructure as a service, in that one, what they do, they provide this infrastructure. If you know that any infrastructure which need to up and running, it consists three things. One is the compute, where your application will run. You need the storage, where your data will be stored. You need the networking which connect these two things. So this is the whole idea. Mainly three components comes under compute. So these all three things will be provided to you as a service, and cloud provider will manage. All the blue part will be managed by the cloud provider. You just need to manage the other things, like you need to create the virtual machine, you need to install the operating system of your choice, then you can create the runtime environment for the developers, and you can build the application on that one. So this is what we have in infrastructure as a service. When we will talk about the platform as a service, that means they are providing platform as a service. That means the runtime environment and all, everything they will manage for you. You just need to develop your focus only on developing your application, and what it happened, so our means so much effort where we are putting to create these all things is reduced. So that is reduced, so we can focus more on developing our application, make it more efficiently. So here the blue part is managed by cloud provider. We just need to manage the application and the data which is related to our application. When we move to software as a service, software as a service, the best example of this is like you are using any mail service like Gmail or anything, like Office 365. These all comes under uh, software as a service. What happens, you will just need a license to run that particular software, or we can say to use that particular service, and you will pay only for your license. So this is the cheapest way, and it is very quickly. You just go request for it, you will get it, and you will be able to manage your thing. You just need to take care about the data what you are putting in your application, or we can say the account, like in your Gmail account, what kind of data it should have, and who will have the access, to whom you are sharing the passwords and all. That's related to data and access, so that you need to manage. But everything up to application, cloud provider need to manage these all. So this is the shared responsibility model. So as I mentioned that in service model we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and the software as a service. We have already talked about it in detail. So in if we will talk about in pictorial form, so this everything makes your own infrastructure. But in cloud, we can partially get it from the cloud provider. Suppose you just need to if you will go with the infrastructure as a service model, this the responsibility of cloud provider to manage the physical data center, like building where it should be, the to purchasing of that land or the renting out of that land, then on that one building the network components and all, building the servers and all, it's the responsibility of the cloud provider. We just need to focus on these three parts: operating systems, runtime environment and all, and the application and its data. When we move to the platform as a service, as I mentioned, we will get everything from the cloud till the runtime environment. Means the platform we will get, we just need to develop our application, and we need to focus on the data and who will have the access on that one. And software as a service, we just need to focus on the data and the access part. Everything we will get it from the cloud provider. So if we will talk about, let's compare these services in terms of ownership, that means the control. As you know that here in the software as a service, cloud service provider manages many things. That means you just have the access on the data part and the access part. That means you have very less control on this one, and you have very less ownership on the infrastructure side. If we will talk about the cost part, here the cost will be the lowest one, because in the question they will ask like that, that which is having the low cost, which where you have the great ownership, or high ownership, or high control kind of question you will get it. Similarly, if you will go with the IaaS, you will have more ownership, you will have more control, and the cost will be higher on this one. So this is what we have in service time. Next topic is the serverless computing. Just think in a way, do you think that any application can run without a server? The answer is no, right? Then why they are mentioning like serverless computing, you can run your application on the serverless computing? What exactly that means? See, In the cloud provider, what they will do, the example of this one is Azure Function and the logic apps. So what they want to tell with this serverless, you just prepare your application, you keep your function or the code ready, you just use that code on the our server. We will not charge on that for that particular server, so we are not no need to worry about the server part. Means we are not worried about the underlying infrastructure. We just need to run our code or the function. So how they will charge in this model? They will charge how many times your function is executed, number of times. This is the question I got it when I appeared for the exam. And how many number of times this function is executed, how much length of the means the time by the length of the running code. So these are the two parameter where they charge for your serverless computing. So serverless doesn't mean that there is no servers required. The only thing, you will not be charged for that one, and you no need to worry about the underlying infrastructure. You just need to provide function or the code to them. When the requirement to execute that particular code will come, it will be um, run at that particular time by the cloud provider. So it is managed by the third party, we can say. So we have covered the two sections. Let's talk about the third section, where we will talk about the difference between types of cloud computing on the basis of deployment model. So what exactly the cloud computing is? Cloud computing is the delivery of computing services over the internet. So there are few parameters by which we can define it is a cloud, like broad network access, on-demand service, and these all the services are available through the internet. We are just getting the services. Okay. So what are the benefits of the cloud computing? It is cost effective, it is scalable whenever we want, it is elastic, it can stretch means shrink or stretch anytime, it is more reliable because they have the huge expert team there who will take care all the infrastructure and all. It is available globally. That means you can access the services from anywhere from the world. Just you require the internet connection and the web browser. And it is secure because they take care all the compliance with their infrastructure. So on the basis of deployment model, we have three kinds of cloud: private, public, and hybrid. Private means it's owned by single party means if you either if it is your for, it's a similar to on-prem infrastructure, we can say, but it doesn't mean that you only need to own it. Might be you are owning that particular cloud, but it is managed by the third party for you. So that is also come under private cloud. When we are talking about the public cloud, it is the example of cloud service provider, where you are not the only one who is using the resources, but also others are using those resources. Hybrid cloud is the combination of public cloud and private cloud, or we can say the your organization and the cloud service provider. So this is what we have in these three clouds. So let's talk about the comparison. If we will talk about the private cloud, it is bit cheaper for us. Means private cloud is having the high cost, public cloud having the low cost. Similarly, if we will talk about the private cloud, we will have the great more control or more ownership for that one. So here we have the high ownership, here we have low ownership because we don't manage that thing. So the question can be asked like this: which model or the which deployment had a great degree of ownership and control? When their degree of ownership and control, private is having more and it is having less. Either can ask like highest or least kind of. It can be asked in any way. This is what we had in comparing of deployment model.
So guys, that's it we have for the part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching once again. See you in next video.